Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Cuzzy Was. Another day, another video, another therapy session for me. So I wanted to talk to you guys today about when it was in my life that I lost faith in the system. And what I mean by system is sort of the constraints by which we live in today, the rules and standards that make up our world. And it's everything that we experience in our daily lives. The system for let me give you two examples of what would be part of our system that we just live by these rules, like housing, for example. Um, or let's simplify that and just say one's dwelling, because every person on the planet needs a roof over their head. You know, we all need a place to live, um, a place that protects us from the elements. And so, one example of the system in which we live, the constraints by which we live by, one of those things that has rules and standards attached to it would be housing. And so, for example, if you want to put a roof over your head in today's society, there's two ways in which you can do that. You can be what's called a homeowner. And if you want to be a homeowner, well, then what you do is you go to a bank and you get a loan. You have to qualify for this loan. You have to show that you're, a responsible person when it comes to when you do borrow from people, that you have a history of paying them back. So if you do want to be a homeowner, the way that you do that, and this is the typical way to do it, unless you have managed to save up and accumulate enough means to go and just purchase a home outright. Typically, the way to do it is that you would go to a bank, you would show that you are a responsible borrower, and you would get what's called a mortgage from the bank. And a mortgage is a loan where the home that you purchase with that loan serves as collateral. So if you stop making payments for a period of time, the bank eventually can come in and do they could foreclose on your home, and they're taking back the collateral that underlies this loan. So that's what a mortgage is, and it's typically a 30-year loan. I would say that probably 99% of the mortgages in this country are 30-year loans. And so you spend the better part of your life paying off this loan, making payments toward it. And after you have managed to make all the payments, principal and interest payments on this loan, then after that's all done, you become a tenant in this house that you own, because you still have to pay property taxes. Or, I don't know, in the past when we lived in feudal times, they called those duties. And today those duties go to a taxing authority. We call them taxes, but maybe during feudal times, they went to, I don't know, the lord of the manor, or eventually rolled up to a monarch, a king or a queen or something like that. But maybe there were steps in that process. But anyway, and the other way that you could do it is if, in order to put a roof over your head, or let's make it simple, have a dwelling, your own dwelling, you can pay rent. You can pay rent to a landlord, and that landlord owns the apartment or the house that you're renting, and they might have a mortgage on it. They're paying taxes on it, and so They take care of the mortgage if they still have one, unless they own the building, the apartment, the house outright, and they still pay taxes on it. And so they're charging you for rent something over and above what their cost is to keep the place, keep the apartment building, keep the house, keep whatever dwelling you're renting from them. And you don't ever actually own or build up any equity in whatever it is that you're renting, whereas opposed to when you're a homeowner, you build up what's called equity in the home. And eventually at the end of the day, you don't have to pay the bank that you took the mortgage out from any money anymore, but you still have to pay taxes. All right, so you still are a tenant. So it seems like, I mean, we still do live in feudal times. It's just disguised, but not really, because it's right in our faces. We just are so trained to think that feudalism ended hundreds of years ago and that we are not serfs anymore, and that, you know, we don't roll up to the lord of a manor, or, you know, a king or a queen or something like that. It's just slightly different. Instead, we have banks and taxing authorities and all that stuff. So, you know, that's one way. That's one aspect of something that is part of our system, right? You know, you need a roof over your head, and there's typically two different ways in which you can do that. And those are the two different ways typically that people do it, or let's say, the vast majority, 99% of the people in this country, in this world even. Let's take something else that's part of our system, the system that I turned away from. And I can go over why I did it, what I was thinking at the time, and where I am now and where that's kind of left me. And so the other thing that, like, let's say I wanted to bring up, this is another example of something that's part of our system. You know, these are kind of rules and standards that have been set for us. Social Security. Social Security is another example. I mean, I'm just bringing up these two things. There's so many other things that make up this web of rules and the way in which we do things that make up our society. But Social Security, maybe before everybody used to get checks, what most people, when they got older, later on in life, what they would rely on is maybe their kids or the younger family members of the extended family. That was their Social Security net. So, for example, when people got too old to be able to, you know, push the plows in the farm, they relied on the younger people that were still young enough and strong enough and physically capable enough to push the plows. And so the younger generation took care of the older generation, where now that's sort of transformed, since we've moved away from more agrarian society into an industrial technological society, where the way Social Security works is you're more or less on your own. You know, you pay, it comes out of your paycheck, you know, if you work on the books, which, you know, I can go into suggestions on whether or not you should work on the books. Later on, I'll bring that up. But you pay into this system, and it's like, you know, the government, the federal government, is apparently, you know, forcing you to save money for yourself. And then when you get old enough, you get a Social Security check, which is currency that is part of the what we use in our money system, the acceptable currency in our money system today. You get a check, a stipend from the government, and it's not enough. Or for most people, it's generally not enough, and so you have to make up the difference somewhere. And most people do that by saving nowadays into a 401k. It used to be that most people, when they work for a company for many years, they would get what's called a pension. And that was a more stable thing for the people that receive them. The reason why companies stopped paying them out is because it was unstable for them, and that, you know, a lot of companies might get to the point where they couldn't fulfill the obligations of the pensioners. And so they moved away from this pension system, or what we call a defined contribution system, to, or defined benefit system, I'm sorry, defined benefit system to a defined contribution system. So most people will save in 401ks and IRAs. And so you're saving for yourself. And at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you have enough currency, or I call them usage stamps, because you take this currency and you can buy the things that you need to in your life. Like, you know, we're not all out there hunting down our own food and building our own dwellings. So what we do instead is we have a medium where we take these things we call them money. I sometimes will refer to them as usage stamps, and you can go into a place where all these things are already done for you, and you take your little usage stamp coupons and, you know, give them in exchange for maybe some food or whatever else you need in life. So going back to the, you know, that's another part of our system. You know, how do we put roofs over our heads, and, you know, how do we have some kind of security later on in life to make sure that, you know, we're not out on our asses, you know, homeless or something, or you know, nowadays it's not so unlikely. Like, there are some people out there that have worked and saved their whole lives that, like, it's sad. I mean, they're living out of their cars in like their 60s and 70s. It does exist out there. You don't want to get to that point. Now, when I dropped out of the system, I lost faith in the system, and then I dropped out. And the reason why I lost faith in the system had to do with some personal things that I was going through with respect to substance abuse. I had a really bad alcohol problem. And I just want to put this out there. Before I go any further, I am coming at this from the perspective of a guy that has been a bachelor my whole life. I never got married or had kids. So my lifestyle is totally different from the lifestyle of somebody that decided that they were going to do the family thing in their life. So, you know, my experiences in my life are definitely not going to apply to everybody, but they're going to be much different for people that decided to have families and go that route instead of spending their life as a bachelor. And I'm sure one day eventually I will get married. I don't think that kids are in the cards. I don't want kids. I never did. And I have my reasons for that. And I have my reasons for, you know, why I've waited this long in my life to not commit to marriage. So going back to when I dropped out of the system, had to do with struggling with being in the throes of alcoholism. As a young guy, I started out my life working in the business world. Where I grew up is about 45 minutes from New York City. So I had a career working in the financial services industry in New York and mostly Manhattan. And I made good money and partied like a rock star. You know, that lifestyle was like the extension of college. You go from college where beer is cheaper than water, and you're partying in college and the whole college party scene, to living in a big city, and then you have all this money at your disposal. You have this job or career where you think that it's serious or that people take you seriously, but the truth of the matter is you're still partying. You're in your 20s, early part of your life. And women generally will, that are looking to settle down or something like that, will say I pass, or you still need a little bit more time in your life, a little bit more experience to I'll let's just say to officially be in adulthood. I don't think that really starts until like your 30s, like early 30s. But I had to deal with this alcohol problem, and it completely crushed my life to the point where I lost jobs, I couldn't work, I was totally incapable of managing my life at all, and I had to address that problem. And in order to address that problem, I was forced to be out of work and sort of be out of like the mainstream where you have this structured life for a good amount of time. Most people, they always have this sort of structured life where they wake up every day and they go somewhere. And the only breaks that they get are like, when you're in school as a kid, you do get a long summer break. But, other than that, it's just the national holidays. And, in school as a kid, you'll get winter break, which is a week. You get Christmas break, which is a week. Some time for Thanksgiving, spring break. So you do get some nice stretches there. Teachers, if you're in the profession of teaching, you'll get those holidays as well, and you get the summers off. But still, nevertheless, you're in this structured sort of lifestyle where you wake up and you go somewhere every day. And there really isn't any breaking out of that. I mean, I guess you could. Some people do. Some people find ways to make money for themselves, put money in their pockets where they're not part of like sort of this mainstream thing. Like a lot of business owners still, they have to wake up and they have to run their business every day, and they have to physically be somewhere. Even if you're a work from home person, it's just a day of work is a day of work. And so you go, you do your work day in, day out, you get your paycheck, you're paying into the system, you're part of the system. And since, most people out there don't really ever have a prolonged period of time where they kind of fall outside of this whole thing, with brief exceptions here and there, like, such as being employed or they take a break, I don't know. But, a lot of people, even if you don't have a family, you do have responsibilities. Like you have to pay your rent, you have to put food in your belly and all that stuff. So you have to find a way to do it. And so for me, I lost faith in the system when I went through these traumatizing events in my life. And when the dust settled and the smoke cleared, I said, I have to take a break. I was able to find a way to get some unemployment, and I came up with, over the course of the next few years, some creative ways. I had a couple of businesses that didn't last. I don't really want to go too much into them. They never really paid me a whole lot, but it was just enough to get by. And so when everything was said and done with the whole alcoholism debacle, and it will always be a part of my life. I haven't had a drink in 14 years or 13 years, and I can never have one ever again. Totally okay with that. I have no desire whatsoever to ever have a drink again. But when that was all said and done, I realized that I had been sort of outside of the mainstream for long enough to be able to take a look back at it. And when I realized that I had to get back in it, I just resisted it so much to the point where I couldn't do it. I saw it for what it was. I saw all the flaws in it. I saw all the bullshit that came along with it. I saw that most of what you do in life is just rigorous, with it really being a lot of these things being thankless in the long run. But you know, it is what it is. I don't want to I don't want to put too much of a negative spin on it, because it is what it is. All right. So I had these traumatizing events happen to me, um, and it's not something that I didn't cause for myself. You know, I take responsibility for everything that went on. I never claimed to be a victim, um, even though I will point out the bullshit in the world, and things have gotten harder and harder. But when things get harder, you just got to work and try harder, I guess. And so I spent a long period of time of just kind of skating by, being outside, only interfacing and being part of the system to the extent that I needed to just fulfill the bare necessities that I had in my life. Just getting by, you know, making sure my rent was paid so I wasn't thrown out on the street, having enough to eat, being able to put some clothes on my back. And for the most part, it is surprising I did manage to, pretty much for most of that time, or most of the past, it's been 15 years now, or 13 years, but it's been 15 years in total. I managed to have girlfriends in that time. Like, women did want to be with me. And I'll do videos on that later on. Even being poor, even being reclusive, I always had great girlfriends, surprisingly. There are good women out there, or I don't know, maybe there's girls that are like, you know, insecure enough in themselves that they want to be with a guy like me. But I don't want to say that, because I do have confidence. It's not like, you know, there are other things to offer in this world other than material things and being like the responsible straight edge. And I mean, it tends to be what women are looking for. But I just wanted to say, go into where has all this left me? You know, I lose faith in the system. I take a look back and I say, I can't get back into this. It's just loaded up with so much crap, so much bullshit, so many things that I just disagreed with. I didn't want to be part of. 15 years later, I could say that a lot of the decisions that I made with resisting and not participating, to some extent, to at least a minimal extent that you need to not just get by but thrive, was a mistake. All right. And you know, I might be contradicting a lot of the people out there that, you know, will put out videos. I do watch YouTube myself, and by the way, I just started a channel. So if you do like the things I have to say, like my video, comment, subscribe to my channel. I'm just going to keep putting out more videos. Like I said before, I don't care if anybody watches them. I'm just going to keep doing this. But I'll see content creators out there on YouTube, people that have channels, and they'll tell you, like, drop out of the system and go live out in the woods in the middle of nowhere. Don't participate. Don't be part of it. But then you look and you'll see that they'll have, like, you know, hundreds of thousands of YouTube subscribers, right? Like, you know, they're killing it. They're making bank on YouTube, and that's what allows them to go out and be reclusive, if that's what they want to be. But they are participating in the system to much more of an extent that they might make themselves out to be doing. Like, they're utilizing the technology and the world that we live in, the digital technology, the ability to interface with mass numbers of people. They are definitely a big part and participating to a large extent in the system. So don't let these people fool you that, you know, just throw it all away, quit your day job, even quit your, you know, I quit my $100,000 a year job and went out and lived in the woods and threw it all away and decided to, you know, screw it all because I didn't like it. I didn't agree. Because after all these years now, I'm 45. I lost faith in the system when I was 30. About a few months ago, I had another series of traumatizing events go on that I don't want to get into right now, but it served as a big wake-up call for me. A big wake-up call where I just made certain assumptions about this world. You know, that, for example, I struggled to get by, but a lot of that was self-inflicted. And so I just assumed that, you know, everybody else had sort of this negative attitude about this, the system, the society in which we live that I do because I did myself. Regardless of the fact that, you know, I am a capable person. If I wanted to participate all these years, I could have found a way to do really well and thrive. And, you know, whatever that might mean. I think that I've spent a lot of this time not being as happy as I could be, not living up to the full potential or feeling totally fulfilled in life. And you know, you're never gonna. I don't think that you'll ever. You can't expect to find complete fulfillment in life, but I feel like I've been unfulfilled in a lot of ways, and I feel like just saying to myself, I'm gonna drop out without having a plan, was a mistake, because looking back on all of this 15 years in the making, you know, I see all my friends that I went to high school, I went to college with, that stayed part of the system, that participated, that maybe didn't have to go through the things that I went through that caused me to make the decision that I made, to lose faith in the system to begin with. But there was enough there for them to say, it's worth it enough for me to be a participant, to keep this job, deal with the bullshit that comes along with maybe, let's say, having a boss, for example, that's a real dick. Because you could see that, you know, maybe there's light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe there's opportunity there. Like waking up every day and putting on, you know, a suit or a dress shirt and a tie, and you're getting paid, you know, not what you think you should be. In the long run, those things did wind up paying off for the other people around me that I see. So, for example, I have a friend now, he is an airline captain. Started off as a pilot. He wasn't in the Air Force or anything, but he paid for flight school. He paid, I don't know, I mean, I'm sure flight school is very expensive. I never talked to him about it, but he spent over 10 years making, he didn't start making above $50,000 a year until 10 years into his career. He started off working at an airline. They were paying him $25,000 a year. $25,000 a year after he had done this flight school, paid all this money for it. And I remember him complaining. He stuck with it. Even 10 years later, he was still complaining. I don't get paid. I get paid shit. And, you know, $50,000 a year, and you're making that kind of a commitment. I definitely, I don't know, I guess once you pay for flight school and you make that kind of commitment, I suppose that you just got to stick with it, which is what he did. But in the end, that all paid off. He didn't say, screw this. I lost faith in everything because I've done all this work and it's yielded me no return yet. Now he's an airline captain. He's making over $300,000 a year, which, you know, where I live is good money, and I live in probably one of the most expensive parts of the country. So that paid off for him. And I see a lot of other people where they stuck with it. They decided that there was enough of a reason for them to participate in this system that we have. And in the end, they're much better off for it. Whereas now I find myself, I'm 45 years old. I got nothing. I got no savings. I got a lousy job making not enough money, barely enough money to even afford the tiniest little roof over my head, and really not have much after that. But, you know, I do have to take responsibility for a lot of that and say to myself, well, you know, you decided that you were above all of this, or that, you know, this wasn't working for you at the time, and, you know, you were just going to kind of throw in the towel. So I would say to the young guys out there, you know, you're going to have some decisions that you have to make in your life. Whether or not you want to be a family guy is a big decision. You know, that's huge. There's an enormous difference between being a family guy and being a bachelor. You know, you have responsibilities that I couldn't even possibly imagine if you're going to be the family guy. But I would say stick with it. I would say that, you know, the advice that I would have for somebody that's in their, oh, let's say 20s or 30s, you're in your 20s, you got some leeway. You know, you can make a lot of mistakes and bounce back from it. You know, you can take risks and you can fail and, you know, pick back up and kind of keep moving. But I would say if you are going to drop out, or you are going to say, I don't agree with the system and I'm going to, you know, become reclusive or go my own way, make sure you have a plan. Make sure you have some sort of plan to support this lifestyle first. You can't just run out into the middle of the woods. You got to have a way, a means to pay for this lifestyle. And so, you know, that's it. That's all I really have. I don't know. These have been my experiences. I'm trying to, you know, get back into the swing of things, get back into the mainstream. And I look back on, you know, time lost. I can't dwell on the past. I can only look forward, but I got a lot of ground to make up. You don't want to be like me, you know, 45 years old, saying to yourself, I got a lot to make up for. I got a lot to make up for. You want to be positioned much better than I am at this point in your life. And so, you know, this has been my experience, losing faith in the system, dropping out, and where does that leave me now? And so take from it what you want. Take the good, leave the bad, whatever you want to do. But I just wanted to share my experience as far as that goes. All right, man, that's all I got for today. Everyone be well, be good. All right, man, take care.